Okay, hi guys. Been a while. I have been quite busy welding on the Stag, and I haven't filmed it because I was just trying to get it done and work it out as I went along. So having the camera in the way would have just made things more difficult. But the good news is the car isn't here, so I've got plenty of space because the car is down at the shell is down at the paint shop, having a coat of having a full respray, bare metal respray. Going for Triumph Signal Red paint, which I think looks really nice. In fact, I've got a hinge which has been done. So this is I bought this back from the paint shop when I went to go and check on progress the other week. So it's a nice pillar box red. I know a lot of people say it wasn't the colour the Stag was done in, but there were some done in it. It is listed on the colour options on some of the charts I've seen for Stags. So I decided that I like the colour, and it's what I'm going to go for. So yeah, so I will be getting the car back next week. So I'll do some filming and show you how it looks. But I had this opportunity to look at brakes today because I've got all the I took all the rear subframe off, took the diff off. Gave the diff a rebuild, which again I haven't filmed unfortunately, but I probably have enough parts left from a spare diff to do a bit of a video on that, so I will do one. But there are a few out there. Elin Yakov's just done one rebuilding a diff, so again something that you look at initially and think it's going to be really horrible, but it wasn't too bad. So I put a bit more preload on the pinion by putting a new collapsible spacer in, done all that. So but while I've got it all apart, I've obviously given everything a good tidy up. Everything's been epoxy primered in a rust buster, a black epoxy paint. Then gone on back onto the car, but I've still got the brakes, the back plates off. The half shafts are in just to hold the wheels on at the moment. But when I get back, I can put these back on. The beauty of it actually is that you can take these off. By removing the half shaft and then pulling off the whole back plate with all the bits. So I thought I'd rebuild them on the bench because it would be easier, and it certainly is, and it gave me the opportunity to film doing the second one. So this is the first one I've done. This will be on the left hand side of the car. You've got the adjuster there, so that's facing forwards. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about the adjusters, because I think that of all the things on the Stag brakes where people seem to have a bit of confusion, it's the adjusters. And in fact I watched a video on YouTube of somebody trying to rebuild the brakes, and they filmed it and put the adjusters on back to front, so that doesn't really help anyone. And I don't know why that video is still up there, to be honest. But so this is all in place. So one of the things you do when you're putting the brake shoes back onto the car, if you've taken off the drum and you're resetting everything, is you've got these adjusters. So these adjusters, and I'm about to show you one that's the wrong way round. I wanted to demonstrate what often happens. So often when you get it, you'll find, and these brakes, when I took them off the car, this is how one of them looked. The other one was right, this one was wrong. And that curved section there, yeah, should be facing towards the back of the shoe. So it's easy enough to change. It's just a little C-clip there, so we can just quickly correct that one. You just take the C-clip off. The adjuster comes off, there's a pin that comes through, so we put it down the right way. So it should sit like that, and the idea is that once that's in place, put the pin back through, put the C-clip back on. Okay, so that's all right as it should be. So what happens is when you're putting the brake shoes back on, having stripped them off, you have to do a reset on this. So the easy way to reset it is you just literally pull this little catch up, sprung toothed catch. There's a bit of something in there, right? So pull that up, push that all the way in, so it's touching the shoe. Okay, and the reason it has to be that way round is because then this spring, with what initially to me looked like a very bent up end of the spring, but actually that's what it should look like. It should have that sort of curved section there and the straight bit there. That goes in here. And that's how that sits. So you need this, if you have this the wrong way round, then it fouls on the spring and you won't be able to push it all the way back to get it set for when you then first press the brakes. Because what happens when you first press the brakes after putting these back together is that will automatically, you'll hear a clicking noise and you'll hear this self-adjust. So basically what it does is it sets the shoes right up against the inside of the drum, so that there's no big gap to close every time you press the brakes. It holds the shoes just off the drum, so they're literally just barely touching it. So that's what it should look like, and that's how it should be done. And to just demonstrate that, so this is all set. I've reset this, pushed it back in as I showed you with the other one. Now the first time you press the brakes, obviously it's going to expand on the slave cylinder here, is going to expand the brakes out. So I'm going to simulate that, and if you listen and watch, you'll see what I mean. So I'm pushing the brakes down. Right? And then what that's done is expand the pads. That's probably gone further than it would do, but you get the theory. It's expanded the pads so that they've now, both sets of pads will now be sitting flush up against, very closely up against the brake drum. So again, I'm going to reset that, so I'm just going to literally put that pick in there, pull that up, and you can see the pads closing up again. So that's pulled them all the way back in. So that's how they are when you put it back together to start with. Okay? So that's what you should be doing when you're setting your adjusters after you rebuild your brakes, or even if you take the drum off to do something, it's always a good idea to reset them. Straight away they'll auto adjust. So that one's done. Got the handbrake lever in. That's going to work fine. Everything's great. What I did find when I stripped these down is the handbrake lever had a lot of play here. That pin had worn a bit. What I found was I put it on my press and I pushed down on top of the pin, obviously where it's been riveted over previously, and I just squished the pin down, and that actually removed. I didn't go too far, but it removed all that sort of lateral play that you would have had there. And then I've just put a little bit of copper grease on those, so they're nice and smooth to move, but not lots of play. So first of all, got the back plate. Now one thing I have already done, and I'm not going to undo it because it was quite an effort to get it on. So putting on the cylinder, you have to remove the bleed nipple to do it. I got the gaskets from Rimmers, which sort of fit, not very well. Put those on. I had to make a little slight kind of cut in them. And you get these clips. Now I bought my cylinders from Rimmers, and I don't know whether it was just, me preempting known issues with clips or not, but I bought a pair of clips separately. The clips that came from Rimmers separately were these sort of like silvery coloured ones. The ones that came in the bag with the brake master cylinders were a different colour. They were actually black. And here's one here. So this is the one that came with the shoes, with the wheel slave cylinders. And you can see it's curved and it's black. So that snapped as soon as I tried getting it on. So I didn't bother that. I then moved over to these. These were far more resilient and allowed me to get them on. So the way I did that was I literally hooked one side over, pushed it down as far as I could on that part as well, and then I got a screwdriver. This one was sitting on top here, this little leg was sitting on top, and I literally got the screwdriver in there, big flat blade, and I managed to sort of pry it open and push it down enough so that they were all sitting on that surface. They hadn't gone down far enough to go into the groove, but they were all over there. I then got a socket that's just slightly bigger than this, put it on top, one good tap, and it was all seated properly with this washer curved the way it should be, and it should be curved like that. So when it's on the slave cylinder, it's pushing against the back plate and pulling the slave cylinder through, making sure the slave cylinder is nice and tight and it's not going to wobble. So that bit was a bit of a sort of learning curve, but got there in the end. And what I did find was the clips that come with them are hopeless. So frankly, that can go in the bin. So once you've done that, next step is to get your brakes. I get the spring on. Now obviously these are handed, so the brake shoes are all the same, but the way these are put on are handed. So if you look at the one I've already done, with the adjuster where it is, you can see the adjuster's on the opposite side to this one. So this one's going to go that way round, of course, because you're on the other side of the car now. Yeah. So this one is going to sit like that, and then that will be on the right hand side of the car, so it'll be facing with the adjuster facing the front of the car, which is the correct way. So you get your pads, you get your shoes in place. That slot there is to go over the handbrake lever. So your handbrake lever goes like this, goes down into there. Then you've got one end of it locates in that shoe on the back of it, and it's effectively locating in the adjuster there. So where you've got that cut out in the adjuster, that's where the handbrake lever is sitting like that. Okay, and then you've got the other end, which you need to get the handbrake sort of over. Now I actually found this quite difficult to get on with the so I'm going to take that off, take that out, and get that on first. So you kind of have to, there you go, that's hooked in there now. So it's quite difficult to hook it in off the car, on the car should I say. Right, there you go, so that's in place. This one can then drop onto it as well. Okay, there you go. So the handbrake lever's in place. Yeah, that's going to open and push both the pads out when you pull the handbrake on. So that's that. So that's how that should be. Now the next thing I do, and I found this out the hard way trying to figure it myself, it's very easy now to start putting on springs, getting everything in place, but you've still got to fit these two pieces here, which again, these are rimmers. I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but the springs are bloody stiff, a lot harder to get on than the previous ones I took off. So nothing wrong with that being the case, but I found the most useful thing when trying to do this was a big penny washer to get your thumbs onto, to push down on top of the spring with the cup in place, so that you can push down, still see the pin coming up through, and then you can hold the pin underneath and just try and get it started so it clips round a bit. And then normally I had to get the pliers on it just to finish it off. So I'm going to do that now because it's easy enough to put the springs on after you've done that. It's a lot more difficult to put these on when the springs are pulling the shoes together. So I found it was quite easy to do with them beforehand. So there's one there. So you get your pin from behind. Put that in place there. Now the idea is you just need to be able to turn that pin when you get the cup over it. Then you put your spring over. Try and hold the pin relatively central. Then you put the cap on. Just try and make sure you can see the pin lined up through the slot so you can see it's going to come through. Then it's a case of getting your washer on there. Putting as much pressure on that as you can. Trying to get it to turn a little bit at the same time. It's not easy. Oh. Actually could do with taking a bit off the side of this washer. I'm just going to do that quickly because the washer is not centralised over it. So bear with me a second, I shall be back. Okay, so let's have a look. I've got the washer here which I've skimmed a bit off one of the sides there to try and get a better line up because it was just getting caught on the side there. So put the pin back through, Okay. There you go. That's it. It's just got through there, and then you've got to try and twist it at the same time. Oh God, okay. This is a fiddly job. I hate fiddly jobs. There you go, that's got through. Come on, turn. There you go, that's turning. So that's almost in place. You can see it's just off centre, so just grab the centre of it and then it will click into place. Then it's on to the other one. Hopefully I'll make a slightly less of a meal of it. Let's see if I can do that with that on there. It's going to be difficult because the handbrake lever's in the way, but I'll give it a go. So you're getting your catch up through there, just spring out of the way. Just open those up a little bit and then I can get that on there. Get my special tool. There you go. Ah, look at that, straight away. Got the knack of it. So definitely a penny washer comes in useful. I'll put that in the box of bits for future use. So now we've got those on, the springs aren't going anywhere. So what we now need to do is get all of the springs, the shoes are not going anywhere. So what we now need to do is get the springs on. So I tend to find the easiest way to do that is this one here. Put my thumb up against the back of it. Can be quite a challenge to get this one on. But if you've got thumbs that are relatively, mine aren't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these. Now these are invaluable, I think, the mole grips when it comes to doing this. So I grip the spring like that with the mole grip. Then you can kind of use your hands against the shoes to pull up against the mole grips. Pull the spring on, drop it in. So the next one to go on is this one. This is the last one that'll go at the top. I don't think there's any particular reason as to what order you do them in, I'm just doing it this way. So with this one you've got a little groove in the handbrake control sort of arm, lever, whatever you want to call it, actuator. Then this one is going to go on there and it's going to clip into the same hole as the first one that we just put in. Okay, so it could go, no, it wants to go that way. And then I'm just actually going to see if I can just pull this one on quickly like that. There you go. Okay, so just the last spring to go. This is the top spring. You want to put this one so that it's on the back of the shoes. The idea is that that'll help pull the shoes back towards the back plate a bit and not out from the back plate. I'm not entirely sure that that would make a huge amount of difference doing that, but anyway, I'm going to do it. Prescribe. I'm going to use my mole grips again to help me grip the spring. So we've got to go about that far. So there isn't enough space here because you hit the shoe, so I'm going to pull it out a bit from the shoe so it's almost bending. Then pull it up until it clips in like that and then just release the mole grips. Okay, so that's in place. I've chamfered the brake linings on here, just used a file to take off a sort of 45-degree angle. That's, you know, again to stop squealing. These are sort of new old stock brake pads. I think they probably have seen some use actually, but they've got a huge amount of lining left on them. So that's now all built up. The only thing I've got left to do, although I believe these probably don't particularly stay on for long before they split, but I'm going to give it a go. If anyone knows any better ones, feel free to say. And that's just your boot over the handbrake lever. Oh, Ooh. Which I can see why they would, where they're located, and also the way that they're fixed onto the back plate with these little sharp arms isn't going to be making life very easy for them to last long, is it? Yeah, I can see why. Those little sharp are going to pull into the boot very quickly, eating away at it. I can see that happening very quickly. So that would explain why you can't expect them to last more than a few months. But anyway, we'll put them on anyway, see how they get on. Maybe even try and come up with a slightly better solution, because yeah, I can see why they're not going to last. Let's get that one on there. This one on here. Okay, that's good. Well, as good as it's going to get. That's not great, is it? It's coming off already. Yeah, that's bent in a bit. I think I'm going to unbend that. I think that one doesn't really want to sit right. Okay, there you go, it's on. Right, there you go. So if I'm ever going to do a rebuild on the brakes again, I would actually seriously think the easiest way to do it is actually just to take these off, do them on the bench. Because having seen people try and do it on the car where you've got the half shaft in the way and you're trying to get the springs off and everything else, for the sake of 6 bolts, which is all 6 nuts, which secure the back plate and the half shaft in place, I don't really see what the issue is. Just take the 6 nuts off and pull the whole lot out together and do it on the bench. You can give it a good clean up, you can paint the disc, the back plates. But there you go, fully rebuilt.